The Woodhead route opened in 1845, built by the Sheffield, Ashton-under Line and Manchester Railway, with Joseph Locke as its engineer. Just 2 years later, the railway merged with the Sheffield and Lincolnshire Junction Railway, the Great Grimsby and Sheffield Junction Railway and the Grimsby Docks Company to form the Manchester, Sheffield and Lincolnshire Railway, later to be known as the Great Central Railway in 1897, passing to LNER in 1923 and the British Railways Eastern Region in 1948. The full route when open was 41.5 miles in length, 66.8 kilometres, with numerous stations along the route, with terminuses being at Sheffield Victoria Railway Station. This opened in September 1851 but closed by the 5th of January 1970. And at the other end, Manchester-London Road between 1845 and 1960, and Manchester Piccadilly for the final 10 years of passenger operation, 1960 to 1970. So in this series of videos, I'm going to walk along this stretch of former railway route from Dunford Bridge right the way through to Deepcar near Sheffield. In 4 videos, we'll be looking at Hazelhead Bridge Station. We'll then go off to Penistone, where the turntable remains and also other assorted things, before heading off towards the beautiful Rumtickle Viaduct, Ferguland Tunnels, before arriving again at Deepcar, which was only recently taken out of use. So in part 1, we're going to be going from Dunford Bridge, following the track bed through the lovely countryside up towards Hazelhead Bridge. We'll also have a look at a bit of the branch line that went off towards the collieries, including Hazelhead Colliery, just before Hazelhead Station. We'll then pass through many bridges, and also there's some culverts before we finish off at Bull House Colliery, where there was also a lovely bridge going over the A628. So things to look forward to in this series. We'll be passing through the remains and the active station at Penistone. We've got the turntable to look forward to. Then there is also Rumtickle Viaduct. The 2 Ferguland tunnels will be going in both of those, and then some track remains at Deepcar, the last section on the eastern side of this line that was still active until just a few years ago and only just taken out of use officially. So this is on top of Windle Edge, the road that goes past Dunford Bridge. Down there, look, you can see the tunnel on the left hand side. It carries the cables through. I can move over to this side and we can see the other track bed, which would have had the original 2 hellhole tunnels just around that bend out of sight. They're down there, look. So there's the original 2 bores down there, which had come out at Woodhead on the other side, and the first one we looked at is the more newer construction that opened for the electrification of the line, but it was very much short-lived, wasn't it, until 1981. So here we can see a beautiful photograph. Look, you can see the tunnel portals on the right hand side. You can see Dunford Bridge Station on the left and the road overbridge crossing over all of the railway lines. Construction work in this photo has just begun on the new, more modern, up-to-date tunnel through Woodhead. It's a little bit more advanced at this stage. Look, we're into around about 1950 for this one, and now the tunnel is almost completed. Look, we're looking outwards towards, I believe it is Dunford Bridge on the eastern side of this portal, but none of the electricity cables or track have gone down yet. But in this view, we can see it's almost at completion. The newer Dunford Bridge Station, the modern signal box, and the overhead lines and track work are almost complete. And this shot, I think it pretty much is complete, isn't it? The overhead lines, the track work, the ballast, it looks ready to go. And this is how it can be remembered. A coal train heading westwards, thundering through, about to enter the tunnel whilst passing through Dunford Bridge Station. But sadly, this is how it ended up. And that would possibly be one of the final workings in the distance that would have passed through this tunnel. And here is a shot of the 2 original tunnels that were in use prior to the more modern tunnel being constructed and opened. Obviously it's access denied down there. There is a barrier there keeping us out, look. But that's where the track bed would have come bursting out,
proceeding towards Penistone. Just have to love these little industrial railway tracks going down there, don't you? Heading off to the original tunnel bores.
So this old map shows us the lay of the land at Dunford Bridge. You've got the two original portals on the left hand side. Look, we've got the road passing over the track beds and the original alignment of Dunford Bridge and station going eastwards. The newer tunnel would have popped out around about just here, with the alignment of the track and station going the same way. In this image from the early 1980s, you can see the newer station on the right hand side, but obviously it's closed. But on the left hand side you can make out where the old track bed would have been, look, and you've got that narrow gauge track work in the middle of the road that we've just been looking at. So here's the tunnels, the original hellhole Woodhead tunnel portals with a train bursting out on the right hand side one, and here's the original station at Dunford Bridge that was operational right up until the opening of the more modern rear line version. It must have been beautiful in its day. It's a shame that none of it is still here.
So Dunford Bridge did have its own station, opened in 1845. 1954, it was moved to a brand new alignment, and this was to do with the new tunnel bore and the electrification of the line, moving the track bed slightly to the side of where it was currently running. The station would last until 1970.
So as workings came out of the eastern side of the tunnel, they would then burst below the bridge that was stood on just a moment ago at the beginning of this video, then straight through the station, the original alignment being on the right hand side of the locomotives. But this is it in sadder times. Look, 1985 I believe that was, and this is when it was single line. Look, there's not much left, there's not even overhead cables. But this is a nicer image how we can remember it, as it was all ready to go, but closed again in this shot, covered in snow.
Now Dunford Bridge Station, that originally opened on the 14th of July 1845. In 1954 it did move to its brand new alignment. Now the new 1954 more modern structure, this still had two flanking platforms, but now realigned with the line through the new Woodhead Tunnel. The main building was still on the down platform with a simple waiting shelter on the up. It closed on the 5th of January 1970.
As we leave where Dunford Station was, there's a nice retaining wall over there on the right hand side. Look, it's very, very wide, isn't it? And the tracks on that higher section of track bed can be seen in this map. Look, you can see there's a head shunt just here, some buffer stops, and the point where it would have joined on just on the edge of Dunford Bridge Station. So these are the sidings that are on top of that wall. Here's a photograph, look, from I believe the mid 1940s, showing locomotives and a couple of wagons up there on the wall, and the track bed that we're stood on is probably not far from the locomotive on the lower section. And this is it in the opposite direction. I bet this was an excursion, plenty of individuals hanging out the windows, but you can see that wall again, can't you, on the left hand side.
There's quite a few former collieries and industries like brickworks along this route. They also had their own little branch lines breaking away from this main line, so we'll keep an eye out for anything like that. The embankment later on is extraordinarily high as well, so we'll look forward to that. It's quite low cloud, look, as you can see, so I will be putting the drone up, but probably not too high. And then we've got the pylons coming up too, which then took the cables underground through the main tunnel. A little bit of stone walling just here, look. It's got that ditch and rainwater flowing through it, so I'm assuming it must cool it down and pop out the other side. Let's see if we can see anything. I can hear running water. Yeah, you can't really see anything. You can hear it, but it pops out there. Now then, what we've got here, this is good, isn't it? Look at that. So, would this be where signalling cables were carried? Because I believe the track bed widened here and there's actually some passing points or sidings, because there was collieries further down there, not far. So this is beautiful, isn't it? Concrete posts there and all these sections just here. You blink and miss these. Now the section of track and sidings that I believe we're looking at, I believe we just picked up at this point just here. There's an array of sidings, look, before we go into a much bigger yard on the right hand side. Look, it's absolutely huge and substantial, and that's part of what we've just been looking at and walking alongside. A short distance further down again you can see how the track bed has widened just here. It goes off in like a slant and then straight across. Look how high that embankment is too on the opposite side. Nice chunk of brick supporting that piece of stone, that rock face just there, look. I was just thinking, looking forward before we saw those artifacts over there, I think there's a few moss covered sleepers in there too behind that fence in the little wooded area where the sidings were, that I've not seen anything yet. It's like there's no trace of the railway apart from the cutting and the embankments either side. So you see those gantries there and there's a pylon behind it. Well, that's where the electricity cables disappear. They disappear below the ground, pretty much where I'm standing. You see the surface changes just here, look. I believe this is to denote where the cables run, and it goes to around about there and they'll fly over there and carry on inside the newer Woodhead tunnel before eventually popping out the ground and carrying along where the reservoirs and the railway line was. Some straggling remains of ballast there, look, with trees that have been recently chopped. Now we're beyond those sidings or passing loops that we saw, but through there's another embankment. I believe this was an internal railway for a brickworks further down. If there's any further evidence of that, we'll have a look. I think it crossed the track bed somewhere, and that's what I'm interested to see. And here is the alignment of the tramway down here. It does just say tramway in very, very small text, and it does appear that it used to cross over on Car Bank Bridge before arriving at the brickworks on the right hand side. You can also just see the junction on the right for the branch that went off to Hazel Bridge Colliery. It's a nice little wooden sign up there, isn't it? I'm going to assume that means we're 1 mile from where Hazelhead Station was, and 4 miles to, I've absolutely no idea. Some kind of shaft just there. It's got a metal grate on top of it and brick built, so goodness knows what's below there. Maybe some kind of underground water pipe. Maybe if you just make it out, there's actually one on the opposite side as well. We left a long straight behind. It seems as if it was going straight for a long time out of Dunford Bridge. We're probably about a mile and a half down from there now. It's got a nice curve going around, and the embankment is very high on the left too. Okay, about to leave that embankment behind, and we're going into a slight cut in because down here it's the first bridge of the day. So this here is Coat Bank Bridge. What a curious construction that is. Typical stonework, but it's curving around nice up, but then you've got that concrete section and base on top. So it's almost like that was replaced at some point, and I imagine that was done to potentially accommodate the cables to make the bridge higher. Can anyone confirm that? Because I'd like to think that that's what it was and why it was in such a more modern 1960s kind of construction up there. Let's go to the top. So it's quite nice, isn't it? It's an interesting shape. I do love that curve. It's the Carlcoats Garden Party on the 22nd of June at 2 PM. If anyone's interested. So it is like an occupation bridge. Oh, footbridge, isn't it? And there we go, look, we can see those concrete side walls either side. Quite ugly really, in my own opinion. remains of an old gantry post there, look. So that's been cut away. Surprised we haven't seen more of those, to be honest. Now, if you can recall what I said earlier about the embankments being very, very high, it is beginning to take shape. That's an extraordinary high embankment with the river flowing below, isn't it? Still traces of snow on the ground, and that was a couple of weeks ago. That's a cafe just there, and I think there's something over there to look at. Looks like a signal post base. Certainly looks like one, doesn't it? Or for the overhead cables. Now that's more like a signal post, isn't it, that one? That's got to be what that was, I'm sure. Tell you what, you certainly got to keep your eyes peeled along here, because you could easily miss stuff. I imagine I probably already have missed stuff, but I've tried my best. I'm having a good look around everywhere. It's opening out down here now. We're on the approach to Woodhead Bridge Railway Station. Just before that, a curious chunk of red brick just there, look. Curiously shaped. Other concrete wall just there, and then it cuts across back around. See what's over on the side. It's just red brick, look. Look, there's an old substation or something. There's something there, look. Probably from the railway. Now, this photograph of this passenger working, it shows that brick section on the right hand side, look. I wonder what this was. It's even got handrails, look, on the right hand side, but you can clearly see from the shape that is exactly where we are, at the junction of Woodhead Bridge. Here's the approach to Woodhead Bridge Junction with a working heading towards Penistone, and here is the actual junction. Look, you can see where the track has gone on the right hand side. You can see the colliery branch heading northwards, look, over the River Don, and also the station is just after the junction. We can change to this one, look, and we've got Woodhead Colliery at the top. We've got Hepworth Ironworks, and we've also got Shedbrook Colliery. Okay, I've come around the other side, and it is the track bed off towards Woodhead and Shellbrook, I think it is. Still track bed going that way, look. And wow, I mean, that's very high up. Let's follow it just a little bit, because I think the river may pass below it at some point that we've been following to our left. I don't think this goes very far now. I believe there's also a tunnel between here and the collieries further up, which is probably buried and long gone. And this old map, you can see where the tunnel was. I can't find any trace of this on normal Google Earth or map. It looks really, really flat, but clearly on this map there did in fact used to be a tunnel. Here's a Britain from above image, look, showing both of the collieries, and we can turn it to this one, look, and you can even see the track work on both collieries, look, coming in from the right hand side off the main branch. Extraordinarily high embankment, isn't it? You can see the river popping out below there, and down here I'm not going to be able to get down to it, not a chance. It's just there, look, going in. And as for the track bed, doesn't really look like it's going to go anywhere, but you can make it out, can't you? If there's anything to come back for, we'll do that on another day. So I'm going to get back to the main line, and we'll get back to the site on the approach to Woodhead Bridge Railway Station. See, before we get back to the track bed, there's that wall again. There is a bridge down there, it passes under and pops out the other side. But getting down there, it's not going to happen. I'm assuming it's for farm animals to get through. Oh, there it is, look. You can get to the other side. Just see it there, look. Gosh, I managed to get down. Very surprised. Doesn't look like anything has really used this for a very long time, does it? Let's just pop through to the other side and have a brief look. I mean, it doesn't really go anywhere. Ah, you know what, I think this may have been for. Just goes along the embankment, and the river and the culvert and track beds to collieries off on the right. Some bad history for Hazelhead Bridge Station was 1880, month of April. 2 freight trains collided, and I don't think the impact was that massive because the line was only blocked for about 3 to 4 hours. However, there was an approaching passenger train coming, and if it wasn't for the efforts of the driver to slow it down valiantly, it could have been much worse. I think it did collide with the freight train, but only just.
Another look at the old maps, you can see the station smack bang in the middle. We've got the River Don also passing below that branch that we've just been looking at. Now Hazelhead Bridge Station, that served many villages that were scattered over the area. There were 2 platforms, and it did open on the 1st of May 1846 before closing on the 1st November 1847. Eventually opened again in August 1850, closed in 1950, and closed to freight in May 1964. And here's a fantastic image of a train going eastwards towards Penistone. It's about to cross over the A616, and here is that very bridge look. A different train, different day, but the bridge that crossed the A616.
So that's a replacement bridge that I've clearly crossed over the A616 with, but it's nice that it's there. I'll try and find some old photos of the original bridge. And of course, Hazelhead Station, that's where we are now. There used to be a signal box here, there used to be a footbridge going over the top. It must have been a beautiful place to be. Another wooden signal sign saying 2 miles on that one, so I've just got to say, and it says 3 miles on the other side. Don't know what that means still. It's probably so simple. What does that mean down there? I know it's obviously a distance to somewhere, but it was 1 mile and 4 miles back there. Would it be to Penistone? I think that's about 5 kilometres away. I'll get the drone up again soon as the pylons are moving away from us on a very high embankment on both sides. Look at that. That's a long way down, isn't it? And it may just be a little bit higher on the opposite side. Yeah, it is, isn't it? Just make out the small river down there. It passed under the colliery branch. The A628 is next. There was Bullhouse Colliery. There was Ganister Pit. There was 1 or 2 quarries there as well. And I'm also hoping a nice bridge crossing over the road. And we're on quite a downward gradient now as well. Don't know if you can make it out. Going uphill, look back towards Hazelhead Station. There's another bridge coming up, look, it's got a slant on it like that very first one, and it also looks like it's had the concrete decking and walls replaced. Pop up top, there's some lovely scenery, and this is it on top again, look. So almost identical, if not identical, to the other one. Poke over the edge back towards Dunford Bridge, and that side towards Penistone where we're going. So yeah, brilliant stone wall though, but you know, again, if anyone can confirm, was that lifted slightly for the overhead electricals. Quite a distinct curve going forwards to the right, and we're still on a downward gradient. Looks nice, doesn't it? That curved support section. Same on this side, look, even closer before being absorbed into the top of the bridge. Looks like a wooden hare or rabbit sculpture there. Oh, it's a rabbit carved by Mr. Stephen Tarr in 2016. He's got his eye on a giant carrot. There's a sign there, it clears up that it is in fact definitely a carrot. There's another overhead power cable base just there, look, right in the middle. I'm not crossing over that ditch to get to it, but that's another one. There's a bridge down here, just about 20 metres down. There it is, look, red brick with concrete bases to it. I'm assuming there's going to be a little stream going through it. Oh yeah, so it's all stone culvert. Might be able to see it better from the other side, to be honest. That trickles down the valley and must also come down the valley. Let's look around the other side. I'm surprised I haven't really seen any more ballast yet. There's a few scraps around like that, look. Yeah, we can get around here, look. There we go. That's nice, isn't it? Yeah, I thought I'd jump down and have a look inside. I'll probably walk through it, to be honest. Just watch out for dangling spiders. It's very, very shallow. And there's water flowing out of a pipe at the side. It's beautiful nature, isn't it? Look at that. Another bridge back there, we just passed over, just there, look. Very similar to that culvert, but it's not. It's for farm access, livestock and whatnot, everything farmy. And it's fenced off. Wasn't going to attempt to have a look at that one, but got to walk over it. That's the view going forward. Still on a descent and on a curve to the left now. It's a nice place to put a bench, isn't it? For a lovely view like that. Look at that orange pool of water down there. Now that is related to Bull House Colliery. That was over there, closed in 1918. And what was happening was all the contaminated water from all the tunnels and workings inside the mine was coming down the valley, seeping out of the mine and contaminating the River Don. So this, I believe, it came to fruition in around about 1988, and it's used to allow the water to settle, and then the clean water gets pushed into the River Don. Don't know how long that stays like that and whether it's actually dredged out every now and then to make it shallow again, but it's clearly doing a good job. Look at that old gate post, still got the bracket on it. There's one on the opposite side, look, a gate as well, so clearly there may have been a crossing here at some point. Well, that's weird, isn't it? How different is that? Got a bit of a buckled wheel as well. No wonder he ended up in the embankment. Nice arch bridge coming up down here. It's nice to see one after those previous ones earlier on. Now that is lovely. Look at it. I mean, it almost looks like it's nearly brand new. And I find that absolutely extraordinary. Let's step back a little bit. I mean, the stonework looks a bit grubby on the top, but the bridge itself, it looks so clean in most areas, doesn't it? Again, the opposite side was just the same. Beautiful. Some brickwork just there on the left. That'd be for a signal box, perhaps. I'll check on maps. So there is a bridge down there that crosses the A road that I mentioned earlier, but it is closed off for work. So we can take a diversion down here, and hopefully it won't take us long to pick it up on the other side. It does give us an opportunity though to have a look at the bridge from down road level. It's the Penistone Agricultural Show, fantastic family day out on Saturday, September the 14th, if anyone's interested. And out the other side, original stone walling just there as well, look. Footpath, I'm going to pick it up just there. And this is what the bridge looked like. The A628 at Bull Bridge looks very low down, doesn't it? You wouldn't really want to take a bus through there or a lorry. It looks very, very low, doesn't it? But it could just be an optical illusion from this photograph. And there it is, the other side of the bridge. Looks like that's been closed for a very long time, looking at the state of the railings from what I can see. So next stop down there would be Penistone. At Penistone Station, that opened in 1845, but it's not on the site that it once was. It moved in 1870, believed to accommodate the other railway going off towards Huddersfield back to Sheffield and Barnsley too, I think, if I'm right. But that is for next time. So we're about 2 miles out of Penistone. We're going to be heading towards there, on towards Rumtickle Viaduct and also the Fergoland Tunnels. So I look forward to seeing you in part 2 of the walk along the Woodhead Route Railway Line. Like, subscribe, comment below. Thank you very much. Social media popping up below. Trekking Exploration Facebook page. Give it a follow, give it a like, even become a subscriber and channel member. See you soon. Bye for now.